What do you think the performance of DFM looks like in this group, and what would please you to see from them?
Okay. What would please me and what I am... Okay, my prediction is for DFM is that they won 100 Thieves. Do I think they're going to be easy games? No, I don't think so, because 100 Thieves are very good in the early game. DFM have shown that they can snowball very well through an early lead, and they do have some set plays early which work very well. There are a couple which they haven't shown yet, and I'm wondering whether they're going to pull them out, because occasionally they've been able to do like level 4 roams from top to mid, or mid to top even. Their solo lanes kind of bailing each other out, or making big plays. We've seen them go bot side with their early plays, but 100 Thieves kind of running the early game takes a lot of the wind out of DFM cells to fight on even footing when it comes to the team fights, where, I mean, even against Beyond, right, when they had that huge lead, they got a little close in a couple of them even in that game. I think they will have enough in the tank to pull out one good win versus 100 Thieves. And you got 4 games versus T1 and EDG. They are weighted against them pretty heavily. I think that when you're looking at top side for, well, both the teams, very, very strong in a lot of ways. And the bot lanes of EDG and T1 are just disgustingly good. And what we saw in the loss to C9 was that they lost control of the map over losing bot lane prio. The support just runs across the map and just ends the game. Because Vulcan had his best game of playing against DFM, I'd say, just running across every lane. He was there for the first death of Ario and that LeBlanc, and those 2 kills mainly came from support and jungle pressure, and they kind of tied into each other. Against T1 and EDG, if you give up early bot lane prio, whether that's giving up an MF, giving up a bad lane matchup or something like that, that could be pretty rough for them. And I think that is going to weight the dice against them pretty heavily. I do think they can snipe 1 win out of those 4 games. I expect that they can potentially go 2 and 4, and then it's up to 100 Thieves to pull off some wacky shit and potentially get a 3-way tiebreaker if the other team they don't beat goes 6 and 0. That's the best case scenario, and I'd love to see it.
Which of the 2 would you pick as the one they snipe? Who's the more likely one out of EDG and T1?
T1, I think that they have made some awkward plays at very important points in the game. I think my view of T1 is that mechanically really good. Got some. I think Carrier is one of the very best supports in the world. Obviously, Faker is greatest player of all time, and he at Worlds you can never write that player off. However, when T1 have tried to go into 1-3-1 scenarios, and we saw this in their playoffs run, occasionally they do stuff like, oh, give up a random kill to a Camille. Wait, you can't do that in a 1-3-1. Camille's the person that can kind of break that balance, and that's not been an isolated event. They've had some times where they can lose their direction at one point in the game and things just spiral out of control from the point where technically they should really be winning and then to a point where they have to fight back from hilarious deficits. I think that you could see that either 100 Thieves or DFM kind of taking advantage of that, particularly if T1 don't just monster the early game in the ways that they sometimes have, and that could land them in a bit of an awkward spot. So I think T1 is more likely, though I have to say EDG I'm not as well read on, and of course they are one of the pre-tournament favorites, as are all the LPL teams. But I think T1, I can see the logic as to if they were to lose, that'll be how they do it, and it's a reasonable opportunity to do so.
By the way, one thing I'll throw out there as well is I also think a reason why Detonation Focus Me has a higher chance than any past LGL team had and maybe ever will have is because if you know the way that the scrim meta works at Worlds, there will be teams, like you've already heard some of the rumours that like NA teams are losing and just not even playing the fucking scrims out. And what happens basically is on week 1 and 2, the Korean and Chinese teams let NA and EU practice against them. Then they just start filtering. They go like, you're a waste of fucking time. Say no to the scrims against him or only take it if there's no one left. Basically, I actually think if you are smart and you are the Western teams, once you eventually realise you're not going to get to scrim against FPX and Dan 1 every bloody scrim block, take some scrims against Detonation Focus Me. They actually show they can do something, and it's another team, so that you're not just only practicing like Fnatic or Mad Lions or whatever, and just tuning yourself too much to them. They got their own style.
There are 2 things on that. First off, DFM, since they've landed, have basically played 10 scrims a day every day. They don't care about solo queue. They're not playing it. As soon as the group draw happened, every player went to Kazu and said, all right, it's not about like strong laning. We've already got that with Korean Challenger players. We're going to lose games through like awkward macro in the mid game. That's how we're going to lose. So let's go scrim. Let's get that done. So before playing started, they had 70 scrims before they went on stage. Like they really hammered that. As soon as play-ins has ended, we've had tweets come out from every player kind of going, ow, we got a bit slammed today. The enemy bot lanes are too good, and lots of other things. So it seems like they have got themselves into. Well, I mean, obviously, it seems like it's been alluded to. Better teams. They're playing against better teams in scrims, so hopefully that means better practice and all the rest of it. But yeah, I think that DFM potentially stand a lot to learn. I think their stock value is pretty high right now when it comes to that, particularly with how versatile they are as well. I think they can show a lot of teams a lot of different things across the scrim block if they're trying to do different things as well. So I'd be interested in hearing how good a scrim experience they're getting right now. I think that is quite important. You're right.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.